Hey, my friends, you are going to love this episode. We're going to speak with William, and William heads up something called Agritopia. And Agritopia is this community based around a farm with housing and a retail space and restaurants. And it's a fantastic example of a family with resources who have decided not just to build resources for resources' sake, but to build up in their financial capital so they might gain relational capital, not just for themselves, but for other people. Listen up, you are going to love this. This is the Arable Leader podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and we're exploring true, brave, kind, curious leadership, leading from your soul. Hey, my friends, welcome to the Arable Leader podcast with Karl Martin. That's me. And today I have a very exciting episode. I'm talking to William Johnston, someone who's becoming a friend. William is the CEO of Johnston Company, who are the power, the brains, and the resources behind something called Agritopia. And so today we're going to talk about the 5 capitals again. And when we talk about the 5 capitals, remember, we talk about financial capital, we talk about intellectual, physical, relational, and spiritual capital. And we talk about the fact that actually we tend to have them the wrong way around, and that finance is the lowest form of capital that we're supposed to invest in so that we might invest upwards. William, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited today to be a part of this.
Brilliant. Well, William, you lead something called Agritopia, and you've helped found something called Agritopia. And I've been there, but I'm not entirely sure I fully understand it. So tell us a little bit about what Agritopia is and where it came from.
Agritopia is a master plan community, so a development, a neighborhood. And what makes it special is we're one of the first agrihoods in the U.S. Agrihoods are development.
Yeah. What's agrihood? What's an agrihood?
An agrihood is a neighborhood that is focused around agriculture. And so what makes Agritopia so special is that the development is on our family's farm. My grandparents bought the property in 1960, and my grandfather farmed for over 30 plus years. And as development started coming towards our family farm, most farmers typically would sell, and our family decided to develop. And we didn't want to lose the history, the heritage, really what makes our history so special. And in part of our research and going through the development process, we thought preserving that farmland was a very important piece and hadn't really been done before. Very common in historical context, most villages had agriculture surrounding the gates, surrounding the walls. That's how they provided for their families. In recent development, that's not how things take place anymore. Farms are shoved aside, they're further out. And so Agritopia highlights the importance of what we call village life, where people do life together.
So tell me a little bit about the very origins of this, because I believe that you come from some resources and that your great-great-grandfather is like the inventor of everything we have in our modern day kitchen. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my great-great-grandfather, his name is Herbert Johnston, and Herbert was the co-founder of Hobart Manufacturing. For those of you who know Hobart, it's one of the largest commercial kitchen equipment companies in the world, and he actually has 129 patents, including the stand mixer, both the floor mixer and also the tabletop mixer. So we all know it as the KitchenAid mixer, deli meat slicer. He was a very, very smart man. When we talk about the capitals, he had a lot of intellectual capital and was just an amazing man. When he passed away, everybody at his funeral actually got a book about his life. And what was really special about it is that it focused on him as a business leader, yes, as a financial success, yes, but also as a community member, as a man who was involved in his church, and that really helped people more than worried about making money. And it just so happens that by creating really amazing things that have changed how we do things in the kitchen, he was also highly successful financially.
Wow. And so, I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted this conversation, because I think it's rare to find someone who's commercially successful who isn't obsessed with being commercially successful, is actually obsessed with using those resources so they might become smarter, healthier, and build the kind of relationships that are really important. So one of the things that attracts me to the concept of Agritopia is, as far as I understand it, in this planned community, you have an intergenerational community, you have people living alongside each other in I think, a non-commune kind of way. Talk to me about how that kind of works, because it was quite exciting when I went to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we feel is so important in life is to be in community with people from all walks of life. I think typically when we see developments today within the US and abroad, developments are geared for people of certain socioeconomic, status. Whether you can afford a house in this price range dictates where you can live. And Agritopia breaks down barriers. It allows people from all walks of life, for the most part, to live within the same community. And it really focuses on what we call all stages, all ages. And that means within Agritopia, which is relatively small when you talk about a master plan development, it's 160 acres. We've got mixed use with apartments above retail. Apartments obviously is a rental option. We've got smaller single family homes, larger single family homes, as well as an assisted living and memory care facility. All of that surrounds the farm, which is kind of the focal piece in the center. And why it's designed this way is because we find value in relationships. And I think that people that move into Agritopia or that live here maybe came here because of the cute homes or because of the proximity to the farm or good restaurants, and have come to find that doing life together is actually the most beautiful part of living in Agritopia.
Well, talk to me about that, because is that something you force or you plan or you control in any way, or is it something that just happens naturally? Because, we're living in a culture where people are increasingly lonely. I mean, some countries in the world are appointing ministers for loneliness. So I imagine, if I want to imagine, this is a utopian place where everyone gets on with everyone. It's very Mr. Rogers, but how is that kind of community built, and how are you investing in making sure that there is real community and it isn't just like any other community?
No, absolutely. It's a huge problem, and I think COVID highlighted that even more so. I think that people are lonelier now than they've ever been, and everybody wants to feel connected. Everybody wants to be known to some degree. And the way that we've been able to influence that is through kind of two main things. And that is the physical space, the design, and then also what we call the rules of the game. The design would mean for the community as a whole, as well as for the commercial areas, how do we make places that feel unique and special? And so I'll talk about the commercial development first, where we have the restaurants and those kind of things. They're primarily in historic buildings that we have really thoughtfully designed to now be coffee shops, restaurants, wineries, breweries, salons, you name it, so that people feel connected to what we would call a third place. A third place is the place outside of your home and work where you feel like you're known and you have a purpose being there. And so for us, that's really important in the commercial setting, that whether you live in Agritopia or you're visiting, what attracts me to wanting to be here? And it feels different than your regular run-of-the-mill strip mall commercial center. For the residential piece, and this I think is what makes it so special, the design encourages people to walk, to talk to their neighbors, and to get out of their homes and kind of walk through the maze of pathways and things to get to the commercial core and the farm. And when I talk about the design of the homes,
it almost sounds European. Almost sounds European,
it is very
William.
much so. It's very European in that, and that's, I think, something that is an American problem to some degree. Is we all want to have our own little fortress, right? I mean, was the American dream. Have your big home and all this. And what we did is we cut out relationships by creating our own little castles. And when you go to Europe, we were just there this past summer. People after work, they don't go straight home and drive into their garage and shut their garage door, and they go to the local pub or they go sit in the
Yeah.
park and they talk to their friends. And that's really the goal, is how do you get people to walk versus get in your car?
Yeah.
And
Great.
how do you get them to sit on their porch in close proximity to the sidewalk to talk to neighbors as they're walking their dog, riding their bike, and having everything in a walkable distance so that you don't have to leave. And the more that you create what we call intentional accidents between people, they become acquaintances and then friends, and then they do life together. The rules of the game in a neighborhood are the CC&Rs. That's really what governs the project. And in our CC&Rs, we have a few things, but the most important one is part of your HOA dues, part of the association money that you give every quarter goes to social events, and they have to be used for social events. So I was actually just with the committee this past weekend going over the calendar of events, and everything from, they've got movie night at the pool in the neighborhood where they're going to play movies and have Hawaiian food and tiki torches, and some are family oriented, some are for couples, some are more geared just for kids. There's probably on average 15 events a year that are put on just to encourage community.
That's brilliant. And I mean, we talk about what you celebrate, you propagate, and what you tolerate, you perpetuate. So actually, almost the soft skills that you use to build community, it's not necessarily about the paths that you build. It's about the celebrations that you have and what becomes normative in your community, and the things that you actually have no tolerance for. Is there anything in Agritopia that you have no tolerance for?
I would say that the weirder the better sometimes. I know that sounds kind of bizarre, but for us, if somebody doesn't want to have community, they learn pretty fast that Agritopia is not the place for them. Oftentimes, people want more land, they want more space, they want to, instead of a 3-car garage, they want more cars. Probably isn't the neighborhood for you. And so the nice thing is there's such a demand for people to move into Agritopia. And this goes back to the financial piece and being successful by doing things the right way. The homes in Agritopia sell at a 30% premium than the homes across the street, strictly because it's different. And we want people to show and express who they are, not just inside their homes, but also on the exterior facades and in how they do life.
Wow. Well, that brings me to another question. It feels very often that we're very binary in our thinking about money and business. You can either make a lot of money or you can be nice and kind and care for people, but you can't do both, right? You can't be a kind entrepreneur. You have to be a harsh driver entrepreneur. And now I know and I believe that that's fundamentally false. But talk to me about that. Does Agritopia actually make money? Are your businesses successful? Do people prosper, or is it just actually really a socialist idyll?
That is a great question, because I think oftentimes people do think in order to make money, you have to look out for yourself first, and you have to be hard, and you have to be really not necessarily a wonderful person. And I think that Agritopia proves, and a lot of businesses prove, that that is entirely false. I'll give you a little bit of a more backstory from when we started the development. We knew it was a risk to have a farm as the main amenity for a neighborhood because it didn't exist at the time. And we looked at a lot of different home builders to partner with. And we're a big fan of, if we're going to go in a joint venture with somebody, we have to align on everything. And if we don't, we either sell it or we have certain business models that allow us to have controls. And with this, we found a home builder that wanted to take the risk, but we didn't feel fully aligned with them. And so what we did is, instead of doing a JV, we sold them all of the lots for the homes at half of appraised value, which seems odd. Why would you do it for half of what it's worth? And in turn, we got 4% of every final home sale price, plus the design controls, and the CC&R controls. That allowed us to have our influence on the entire project, and it reduced the risk for them early on, and we benefited if it was successful. I think what it proves is if you can work with someone, or if you can do it yourself and take a risk to do what you believe is right, it will pay off in the end. Patience is a virtue, and patience sometimes is also known as long suffering. And for us, hard work pays off, being patient pays off, but also sticking to your core values and what your family cares about. One of ours that is always at the forefront of our minds is stewardship. And being a steward means that you take your financial resources, if you have them, or intellectual capital, whatever it might be, and you use it for the betterment of others. And so for us, that is, we try to take all the different pieces of capital that we have, intellectual, financial, and apply it to creating the best place possible for not just ourselves, but for everybody else.
Wow, that's fantastic, William. Tell me that you're going to do this again. Tell me what are you dreaming of? What are you one of our values is curiosity, which I often attribute to dreaming and scheming and going after new things and taking new territory and being pioneering. What are you dreaming of right now? What are you thinking about and hoping and planning for?
That's a great question, Karl. For me right now, honestly, I think I've got 3 kids. My daughter's 13, my son's 11, my other son is 5, he'll be 6 soon. And I want them to be able to do what my great-great-grandfather did, in that he wasn't in real estate at all. He was in creating kitchen things. My grandfather wanted to be a farmer. He farmed. My dad is a developer and restaurateur, and I run our family office and development. I dream about the impact that my kids will have in whatever it is that they do to touch other people's lives. That's what I dream about right now. And it's giving them the tools and the ability now to think about people and things and places and spaces in ways that most people think about, well, how can I get this paycheck, or how can I do this so that I can live this life? I recently was I was the best man at one of my friend's weddings, and he had his wife, their daughter, their friends in a beautiful space. And I said, all that you need in life, you have right now. So just now do what you can do to make other people's lives better. And for my kids, that's the big thing. When it comes to development, I have quite a few team members who have dreams of their own that want to do things. And for me, it's how can I now come alongside them and help them achieve what they want to do? Whether that's on the financial capital side, or intellectual, or just being a support to them. They have a lot of curiosity, and I would like to just help other people be, the next movers and shakers that have learned from us.
Brilliant. So obviously we talk about true, brave, kind, and curious being 4 intrinsic values for great leadership, and that's where the 5 capitals come from. That actually you're the project is deep, the project is soul, and it comes from a basic belief that life is more than 5 senses operating in some random world. It sounds like your family and you have some values that are very deep. And come from a deeper place. Where does all this stuff come from for you? Are you just nice people, or are there some fundamental beliefs that you have that drive everything?
There are some fundamental beliefs that drive everything. One, our family, we're Christians. We have, I think, being faith-based, there's a lot of things that biblically that we adhere to and that we believe in. And our family too, my great-great-grandfather was a brilliant man. And one of the things that he did is he created some core values for our family that we still truly believe in and adhere to every day. And we call it the 3 H's: honesty, humility, and hard work. And so those are things that our family really tries to focus on in all that we do. Is what we're doing an honest thing? I think that's a great question to ask anybody. Is this selfish, or is this honest and a good thing coming from our heart? Are we lying about the end result, or do we fully believe in it? Are we humble? Are we doing things in a way that is not self-serving? Are we doing things in a way that, if somebody were to see it happening, they'd feel like those people are just good people. And then hard work, I think, is an intrinsic trait that people need to have to be successful in whatever it is in life. I mean, nothing comes easy. And even if you have all the money in the world, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful if you don't work hard. And for my kids, that's a very valuable statement that I make almost every day. My parents, I started working at 5 years old. That's been our life. When you have a farm and you're a kid,
I love that.
You hoe
I
weeds
started working at 5 years old. Come on.
And it's funny because people are like, you're young in your career. I'm like, well, I've been working for a long time already because I feel like that's all I've done is work. But I do love what I do. And I think that when you see how your work benefits others, it makes it really enjoyable. And that to me is such a beautiful thing. I have a lot of friends who go to a job and they clock in, clock out, and it seems pretty sad, and they're stressed out and they're miserable. And I mean, I have had a lot of stress in my life for sure, but seeing people enjoy what you do and seeing people's lives enriched by the hard work you put into things, it's more enjoyable than a big paycheck or anything like that.
That's wonderful. Well, let's just synthesize this. Money earned through kitchenware and being successful as farmers develops intellectual capital, develops physical capital, ultimately develops relational capital where communities can come together and people can find relationships, and friendship, which trumps finance, ends up being something that people are encouraged in this thing called Agritopia. And I'm sure there's many times when it doesn't go right, and I'm sure there are lots of things that are not perfect, but it sounds like a really powerful message of leadership and of priorities for the world. And those three values are honesty, humility, and hard work. I mean, if all we did was teach those values to our kids and put those into the education curriculum, we would end up with a nation that was significantly more prosperous and significantly more kind. William, it is an honor to have had you on the podcast today, and wish you every blessing and every success as you continue with whatever vision you have for the future. And I'm looking forward to coming back to Agritopia at some stage and having a fantastic meal. And if I ever need a KitchenAid, I'll call you up.
Give me a call. No, the pleasure is mine, Karl. It's honestly, it's such a joy talking about these things, because for us, it's second nature. And the more that we can share our story with other people and encourage others to do what is right to benefit others, I just think is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for this opportunity. You guys are doing an amazing job.
That's fantastic.
You've been watching The Arable Leader with Karl Martin. Subscribe for more episodes with great leaders. And you can also listen to The Arable Leader wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources for leading in a healthy way, visit arableco.com and check out Karl's new book, The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire.